The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Just a little while ago, President Obama came out. He made a statement at the White House press briefing room about plans regarding guns and gun regulations following up on the Newton Sandy Hook School massacre. Let's listen to a little bit of what he had to say, and then we'll discuss it.
Is complex, can no longer be an excuse for doing nothing. The fact that we can't prevent every act of doesn't mean we can't steadily reduce the violence and prevent the very worst violence. That's why I've asked the Vice President to lead an effort that includes members of my cabinet and outside organizations to come up with a set of concrete proposals no later than January, proposals that I then intend to push without delay. This is not some Washington commission. This is not something where folks are going to be studying the issue for 6 months and publishing a report that gets read and then pushed aside. This is a team that has a very specific task to pull together real reforms right now. I asked Joe to lead this effort in part because he wrote the 1994 crime bill that helped law enforcement bring down the rate of violent crime in this country. That plan, that bill also included the assault weapons ban that was publicly supported at the time by former presidents, including Ronald Reagan.
So then he also goes on to say that we should get an actual vote on the head of the ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which hasn't happened for 6 years. They've really kind of been without an official head of the ATF for some time now. So, okay, this is what President Obama wants to do. We've heard that the NRA is saying they might consider some concessions on some things, and as much as it sickens me to even have to admit that the NRA is actually a factor in these negotiations, they are. What do you think? Are we going to see anything happen or change as a result of this? President Obama saying this is not to be studied for 6 months and then do nothing. It's for now.
Right. Hard to say. I can't imagine. I guess I can imagine a ban on assault weapons, but unfortunately, I don't see people who already own them having them taken away.
Yeah. Now, there's a really interesting article that's in the Chronicle of Higher Education, which identifies a number of different myths and realities about gun control. And some of them are myths held by the left, and some of them are myths held by the right. And because President Obama talked about the assault weapons ban, and because you talked about it, I want to read to you what this list of myths says about that. And the myth, as it claims, is that restoring the federal ban on assault weapons would prevent this type of crime. And it indicates the reality is that the overwhelming majority of mass murderers use firearms that would not even be restricted by an assault weapons ban. In fact, semi-automatic handguns are far more prevalent in mass shootings. Of course, limiting the size of ammunition clips would at least make the gunman pause to reload. So that is a factor. Even though the assault weapons that would be banned by the ban often aren't the ones used in these shootings, I still think that figuratively, if there is the will to do that, it can be done as part of a broader thing, because even if those aren't the source of the shooting, do we really need those weapons, right? It still seems to be okay. I just don't want it to be misconstrued as the solution.
Right. It's just part of the solution. It can help. It can only help.
No question about it. Now, the other issue is we really have to talk about this idea that mass shootings are on the rise. I've looked up as much information as I can about this, and the evidence I've found suggests that over the last 3 decades, there have been about 20 mass shootings a year in the United States, each with at least 4 victims killed. And it seems that sometimes by coincidence they do happen clustered together, sometimes they don't, but that it's really more of a media coverage thing, the instant and pervasive and constant media coverage that we've talked about, that has made it appear as though they are on the rise. But if people have other information, please correct me, but I've not seen evidence that the mass shootings are on the rise.
Right, but of course, anytime there's a mass shooting, you suddenly start hearing about much smaller, more minor shootings happening all across the country. Like I said on a show earlier, we live next to a city that has shootings just about every day, and we don't even hear about them.
Right.
We live right next door.
So I do agree that the ammunition thing is a big factor. If people increasingly have trouble getting ammunition for the guns that they like using, it is far more likely that they will not use that weapon at all or not keep it as an active weapon. So for people saying doing only A or B or C doesn't have an effect, all of these things together could have an effect. Let's wait and see. According to President Obama, it won't be long until we know what the proposal is.
Hopefully.
Tennessee pastor named Sam Morris of the Old Paths Baptist Church, he had a sermon about the mass shootings, and he says that the reason for the mass shootings are because schools teach evolution and schools teach, quote, how to be a homo. This is the type of thing that we're hearing in many churches across the country and on Fox So-Called News with Mike Huckabee. Let's take a listen to this.
I will tell you that this sermon will not be pleasant. It will not be popular. But it will be precise. It will be pure. And it will be practical from the bottom of my heart. You know, when I see all these shootings and I see how they're responding on the news, I quickly have learned 5 truths about America.
All right. So what's your initial reaction to this guy? And where does he get this cadence anyway?
My initial reaction is that he's a complete lunatic.
Okay.
And you know what? Unfortunately, I think there are thousands of people across the country saying this exact same thing in churches all over.
Let's listen to some of the key points here. Let's see if we can get that.
That's what it teaches. So
Hold
you're
on.
an animal, you
Back
can
up
act
to the right part. Here we go.
man and all this stuff, Neanderthal and all. I looked at it in the neat pictures and I don't know where it went, but they wouldn't teach them. But when I got in high school, man, I started learning all this kingdom, phyla stuff, all this junk about evolution. And I want to tell you what evolution teaches. Here's the bottom line. You ready? That you're an animal. Amen. That's what it teaches. So you're an animal, you can act like an animal. Amen? We'll just put you on drugs. If we get tired of it, we put you on drugs because your animalistic behaviors are just too much for me. So here you are, you're an animal, and you're a God. So what are we going to teach you about in school? Well, we can teach you about sex. We can teach you about how to rebel to your parents. We can teach you how to be a homo.
So this guy seems very well grounded and reasonable in his opinions.
I think this guy's proof of evolution. See, we've evolved much further than this man. He's clearly stuck in some in a more primitive state.
This is a new level, though. The idea that if evolution says that we've evolved from animals, we will then act like animals, and that includes shooting people and being gay, apparently.
I mean, this guy's acting like an animal.
Let me see if I'm following this. God hates gay people so much that in spite of never mentioning homosexuality in the Ten Commandments, he would have a shooter mow down a bunch of innocent kids just to show how upset he was that someone in a different school, somewhere else in the country, is trying to teach children to be respectful to homosexuality and the children of homosexuals, as they should be to everybody else. So,
Yes.
so that makes sense. That's
God
reasonable.
is also a big fan of mysteries and Sherlock Holmes and stuff. He wants you to piece all this together, even though there's no connection.
Pastor Morris must be talking about a very different God than the one I think most people of faith believe exists. He's talking about a very evil God, isn't he? A spiteful, evil God.
He's talking about a God with very childish emotions.
Yeah, really.
I don't know how such a supreme being could have such ridiculous childish emotions like this. You know, and if God is killing all these people, what's the devil doing?
Yeah,
I mean,
the devil
devil's the
seems
good
to be
guy.
on vacation.
He seems to be the good guy here.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
This guy
But
would get along great with our friends at the Westboro Baptist Church.
This is happening, though. This is happening. Also happening, a Utah 6th grader took a gun to school after the Sandy Hook school shooting, saying his parents encouraged him. This is an 11-year-old boy in Utah. He told classmates that his parents recommended he take a gun to school for defense after the recent shooting in Connecticut. According to KSTU, students at West Kearns Elementary School told teachers after the 6th grader pulled a .22 caliber pistol out of his backpack on Monday morning. At recess, he pointed a gun to my head and said he was going to kill me. That's according to fellow classmate Isabel Rios. The Granite School District spokesperson Ben Horsley said, after staff were informed, the boy was apprehended within 30 to 45 seconds, brought down to the office, and police were on site within 5 to 10 minutes. Several parents said they weren't even notified about this until 5:30 p.m. via a pre-recorded message when the students had already long been home. No lockdown, no anything. Although if the kid was just ringed around the neck and brought down to the principal's office within 30 seconds, I understand maybe not having a need for a lockdown. Some people would say, well, hey, if he has one gun, there could be lots of guns. You got to lock it down and search. I don't know.
Hard to say. I'm surprised they didn't lock it down. I'll leave it at that.
Well, the police department rather, booked the 11-year-old suspect on 3 counts of aggravated assault, and they promised the school promised a lengthy suspension, which would apply to all campuses in the district. We've got to charge the parents here, though, don't we? This is an 11-year-old.
Yeah, it's great. They're giving the kid a vacation now.
Yeah, they're giving the kid a vacation. Don't we need to charge the parents with reckless endangerment? I mean, they provided if we believe the story, they provided the gun and the idea, and I can't really believe the 11-year-old. I guess it's possible he got the gun completely by himself and came up with it, but we've got to see what the parental involvement is here.
Oh yeah, I think there could easily be charges if the kid's story is true.
Some people are saying expel the kid, but if it's true that the kid did what the parents said and you expel him, and maybe they end up homeschooling him, aren't we making this child even worse off?
Well, the kid held the gun to a classmate and said, "I'm going to kill you."
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
You think maybe he should be expelled?
I don't think this kid should ever set foot in a public school again.
But aren't you punishing the kid for presumably something that's the result of his upbringing, right, Natan? I mean, is this not a point?
No,
it doesn't
I
matter.
think it's a good point.
He's a liability. It doesn't matter.
Natan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue here definitely is the parents in terms of preventing this from happening again, which I guess is what we all want. In terms of if the kid's at fault, he's 11 years old. It seems very difficult to blame the kid for any of this, really.
It's tough. And by the way, isn't this the right-wing dream? The kids are armed. They can defend themselves. They can make sure that, if anybody tries to shoot them or pushes them off the monkey bars or maybe draws something on their back or something like that, they have a gun. They can now defend themselves. Republicans should love this.
The girl who this boy pulled the gun on should have had a gun herself. Then she could have defended herself.
This wouldn't even be an issue if that other girl also had a gun, because then she could pull it out and say, no, if you kill me, I'll kill you first. Or it'll end up being in some kind of weird shootout situation.
Right.
But we'll both
where
be
a shootout where guaranteed, David, no other people will accidentally be shot as a result of this self-defense.
Well, nobody would be accidentally shot, because in the perfect world, the teacher and the recess monitors would also have guns. So the second the kids are about to get into a gunfight, the recess monitor shoots them both dead.
Wait a minute. We don't need to get into any of this. If everybody in the world has a gun, nobody will ever pull a gun on anyone else.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Why didn't I just come to that conclusion from the beginning?
Come on, David. You got to listen to the NRA more.
Time magazine has named President Obama as the Person of the Year. This was unveiled yesterday by managing editor Richard Stengel. He said it was remarkable that the president won 2 terms with over 50% of the popular vote as a Democrat. He said President Obama took office in an economic crisis, credited him as creating a new political alignment like Ronald Reagan did 40 years ago. Now, I know conservatives are going to scream liberal bias here, as you always do, but George W. Bush was Time's Person of the Year in 2000 and in 2004. He was arguably one of the worst presidents in history. But don't worry, according to Karl Rove, it should have been Mitt Romney on the front page of Time magazine. I mean, after all, he is a guy in Ohio who has a very different view about what's going on with those votes, Louis.
Right. I don't know if I agree with Obama being Time Person of the Year.
I don't know if I agree either. And this may not be a popular opinion, but I'm just not sure that world leaders should ever be Person of the Year.
It's a cop-out.
It's their job to take care of their citizenry. Some do it, some don't. And I actually think that the honor for this should be held by, I hesitate to use the word normal people. It should be held by people that are doing great things without the platform of running a country. Maybe it's a teacher, a doctor, a scientist, an inventor. I think more broadly, that's my view. What do you think on that, Natan?
I don't know. I don't really care who's the Time Person of the Year, and I don't know how to judge how they should judge it.
That's the thing. Assuming I cared, I would think of that.
Exactly. In terms of whether politicians should be excluded from it because they're in charge of doing what they're then being credited as doing, I don't know. I mean, who else are you going to give it to? I mean, there's a Nobel Prize. They give awards out. Are you going to give it to the same people?
Yeah, Obama got the Peace Prize and then sent 30,000 troops to Afghanistan. So I don't know that that's really the one to rely on either.
Right. So do you think this is an expectation of what he's going to do in the same way that the Nobel Peace Prize was sort of an expectation?
If it is, I don't think I agree with that idea.
Excellent.
Lewis?
Yeah, I don't agree.
You just don't think it should be President Obama? Who would it be in your mind? Who in a perfect world?
A person who is in a position like the president is always under heat. There's always criticism. There's people on both sides of the issue. It's a polarizing character always.
Right.
And I mean, it's just it's lazy to name him Person of the Year.
You're saying they could have found someone else. They could have found someone that did something.
Also, I just don't understand the logic. The fact that he won a second term with over 50% of the vote, credit the 50 million, not the 50 million, the 50% who voted for him, not him. I mean, how is he getting all the credit?
That's true. Here's who I would say is the Person of the Year. The changing and evolving American electorate that voted for marriage equality, that voted in a record number of women, that voted in minorities. Maybe it's the youth vote or the new progressive vote that should be the Person of the Year. I don't know. That's just an idea.
Maybe it should be me.
Maybe it should be Producer Lewis. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? Listen, it's almost the end of 2012, and we have the final membership special of the year. If you've been watching the show, freeloading, like those people that Mitt Romney says are just taking stuff. Wow, remember that whole thing? It's almost like funny to think that happened now.
Ridiculous.
In any case, if you've been thinking of supporting the show, this is a great time to do it. You go to davidpakman.com/holidays. You get a 1-year membership and a David Pakman Show hoodie of your choice together at a great discount. It's only going for a few more days through the end of the year here. And our end of the year is closing in here, Lewis. We just have a few shows left.
Right.
davidpakman.com/holidays. You'll get the bonus show as a member. Today, we will talk about a woman controlling a robotic arm with her brain. We'll talk about the U.S.'s most health-conscious cities. We'll talk about Ireland legalizing abortions. And it's all hosted by producer Louis Motamedi. So please sign up, davidpakman.com/holidays. We'll take a break and be back after this. So much more. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
If you use Amazon.com for any of your holiday shopping, please support the David Pakman Show with that shopping by first going to our website, davidpakman.com. On the right side, there's a black banner that links to Amazon. You click it, it'll take you to Amazon, then you just do your shopping, and you'll send 7% of your purchase to our show instead of to Amazon.com. Another way to support us is to become a David Pakman Show member, which is made possible in part by liberalbias.com. Lewis, good conservatives know that climate change is a myth. So the question is, why are there so many graphs and charts that disagree? Find out about the liberal bias that's inherent in things like temperature, weather, and other science-y things at liberalbias.com. It's a big deal.
It is a big deal.
Today's new member of the day, Robert Lee. I won't ask the obvious question, which I'm sure he got, whether his middle name starts with the letter E. I will simply say, it's great to have Robert Lee as a member, and we thank him personally and sincerely. And to all past and future David Pakman Show members, we say a thank you.
Yes, thank you.
We usually don't get good news when it comes to education out of Louisiana. Louisiana actually has a lot of problems when it comes to education. Governor Bobby Jindal, for example, passed a voucher plan over the summer that would give over $11 million of taxpayer money to private schools that teach creationism. Now, here's the incredible thing. Having that curriculum with creationism in it would not even allow that school to meet the state's science standards, yet Bobby Jindal is okay giving them money. One school district, Orleans Parish, has taken a huge step towards making science education better for students. They have voted to amend the way that textbooks are selected in the district. Previously, the superintendent basically had final say on all textbooks and supplementary instructional materials that would be used. And there would be optional input from teachers and administrators. Well, in the last 48 hours, the board decided to add a new caveat to that policy, and I will read it to you, and this is fantastic. No history textbook shall be approved which has been adjusted in accordance with the state of Texas revisionist guidelines. Nor shall any science textbook be approved which presents creationism or intelligent design as science or scientific theories. They basically just have said, we forbid the adoption of any textbook that promotes Christian nonsense under the guise of science or history. This is huge, particularly in Louisiana.
Yeah, this is great. I hope it happens to more than one district.
Thomas Robichaud, who's the president of the school board, is one of the good guys. He actually tweeted when this happened, OPSB, which I guess is Orleans Parish School Board, passes ban on creationism in science classes and science textbooks and bans revisionist history textbooks. This is great. This is very, very good. If only Governor Bobby Jindal cared about proper science education as much as this one school board did. Next stop, we got to get rid of abstinence-only sex education.
Right. I think that will follow in suit logically if this takes and spreads to other school boards.
The irony is that the fact that Louisiana passed this is actually making some atheists think, hey, maybe there is a God.
Right. Yeah, but I doubt it.
All right. Very
Funny,
good.
though. Very funny.
Thank you, Lewis.
Yeah.
I can tell by your laughter how good that line was. Was it the delivery or the content that didn't make you laugh?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you're just too wrapped up in the seriousness of this education issue.
It is
To
serious.
have time
very,
for hijinks.
very serious.
In Oregon, a pro-life protester stabbed a man 7 times. This is a self-identified pro-life activist. He pushed a young woman to the ground and then stabbed her father 7 times. This was an Oregon man who was protesting at a Grants Pass Planned Parenthood clinic. He stabbed another man 7 times. Christopher Tolhurst stabbed Ted Clare 7 times in the abdomen and neck after they got into a fight. Witnesses report that the stabber, self-identified as a pro-life activist and anti-abortion demonstrator, pushed Clare's 22-year-old daughter, Kayla Clare, to the ground after the young woman and the anti-abortion demonstrator exchanged words, and the woman kicked several of the man's signs off of the sidewalk. Now, Kayla Clare came back later with her father, who confronted Tolhurst about the assault on his daughter. A struggle took place, and Tolhurst took out a knife and stabbed Ted Clare 7 times. Now, what if he had a gun?
Well, I'm sure. Did he die anyway? Is he?
No, he didn't.
Okay, well, he'd probably be dead.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Politico reports that his signs read "Abortion is murder," "Abortion kills children," and a number of other stuff. He also had a placard supporting Mitt Romney and another Republican candidate for Congress. Now, why doesn't this so-called pro-lifer respect the life of the man he stabbed 7 times? That's really the question.
Because I think a large majority of pro-lifers are hypocritical asses.
Pro-life. Life begins at conception and ends at birth. And after birth, it's fine to stab people or do whatever you want.
Of course, right.
President Obama is said by PolitiFact to have kept the promise of sending first-time nonviolent drug offenders to rehab over jail. Now, this is a big, big deal. There have been a number of these drug courts created, which operate basically at the state and local level, about 2,700 of these. This means that there are a lot of people. The administration estimates about 120,000 people who have been sent to treatment instead of jail. Now, some people will say treatment may or may not be effective. That's fine. We can have that conversation.
Treatment also costs money.
Treatment also costs money. But keeping these people in jail also costs a lot of money, and it's really not productive, as we have said, because of the expense of prosecuting these drug crimes, so on and so forth. This is actually good. We've criticized a lot that President Obama has done, and we've said that a lot of things he's done have been positive. I think that this is a good thing. We are seeing a decline in prison inmates every year over the last 3 years, and these nonviolent first-time drug offenders really just have no place in prison, I believe, and the evidence seems to support that.
Right, but this still isn't good enough. I mean, a first-time nonviolent drug offender to rehab, I think they should just get fined. Probably the second time they should also just get fined. Third time, then maybe rehab.
Well, Lewis, it's incremental progress.
Too slow.
You're skipping ahead many steps here.
Too slow.
In any case, good news, and it is a promise kept by President Obama. Okay, let's take a break. Please join us on Facebook, facebook.com/David Pakman Show. Next, this is going to be interesting. I will talk to one of the individuals from Anonymous who was involved in releasing the private information of the Westboro Baptist Church members and who is going to tell us What exactly does he mean by a full, permanent takedown of the Westboro Baptist Church? I'm excited to see what happens here, Lewis. I don't know what's going to happen. Stay with us. We will talk to Anonymous after the break.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
This should be interesting. Joining me now is an individual believed to be part of the internet gathering known as Anonymous. Now, I'm going to be completely upfront here. We get pitched someone from Anonymous, claiming to be from Anonymous, just about every month. Oftentimes, it's obviously not real. They're leaving us a voicemail with a caller ID that we can track back to, a specific place, and making amateurish mistakes. In this particular case, based on all of the research we've done, Lewis, and that's really all we can do, I believe that we have with us one of the individuals involved in and responsible for the leaking of the contact information of a number of individuals at the Westboro Baptist Church, and also involved in some of the threats that have been publicized lately from Anonymous to Westboro. Can you confirm that for us, Anonymous, that you are involved with this group? And feel free to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, I was working with KY Anonymous and NightSec in releasing the original docs on Westboro Baptist Church. I'm from Team Steam, and my online handle is Anonymous Papadopoulos.
All right, Anonymous Papadopoulos. So maybe an allusion to some kind of Greek family background or something we just don't know, or maybe a red herring. We'll kind of leave that, I guess, for the audience. So let's go back to the beginning here. You released this information that you obtained, the private information of the Westboro Baptist Church members. Why do you target them in the first place?
They released a public statement saying that they were going to picket the funerals of the Sandy Hook shooting victims.
Right.
And Anonymous can't condone that kind of action. We are advocating for the peace of these families, to just leave them alone in the time of grief. Okay.
And are you worried at all, because when we talk about the release of this information, was anything illegal done in order to obtain that information, or are you guys just really good at just Googling people?
No, nothing illegal was done during the attaining of this information. It was all Googling, all white pages, all that.
Okay, all right, that's good to know. And hey, as far as how this structure goes, like, how do you guys, do you know other anonymous individuals that you're working with? Do you know them personally, or are these all online of relationships?
Everybody that I'm working with is online relationships.
Okay, so you might walk by another anonymous person you're working with on the street, and you would have no idea that's who that is. They would have no idea who you are. Exactly. Okay, and what's the goal of that? What's the point of that? Just so you can't turn each other in, even under duress, if you were to be interrogated?
That's one goal of it. Another goal is that the feds try to infiltrate the IRC chats all the time. So our goal is to try to remain as anonymous as possible. Okay, so you have reason to believe that federal agencies actually are trying to make contact with you. It's known that Anonymous uses Internet Relay Chat, IRC, to communicate, that they're in there trying to infiltrate. Yes, they're in there constantly. So we always have to be kind of wary of new people coming in, and we just kind of have to stay back and watch them. How old are most of the people in the immediate group you work with? Ages range. They all vary, from very young to very old. Okay, like what? How young? The youngest that I've heard of was 15. And is that you? Are you 15? No. You're not 15. Okay. Do you want to tell us how old you are? Nope. You don't. Okay. All right. Let's get into the next plan. So you told me via email that you guys have some pretty big plans as far as the Westboro Baptist Church go, and you're even saying the possibility of taking them permanently offline. Does this involve, what does this involve? I mean, are we talking websites? Are we talking their personal bank accounts so that they can't even operate as a church? What's the extent of it? Well, we're starting out with the websites, and as far as we know, the Jester, which is he's an internationally known hacker himself. He has taken down 18 of the 19 Westboro Baptist Church websites permanently. The only one that we know of that's up right now is GodHatesFags.com.
So I guess, is it fair to say that at the moral level, Anonymous, at least the group you speak for, and I know you don't speak for everybody, has decided that you're basically willing to do things that are breaking the law as it stands because you believe in some, in other words, do you believe that your moral code goes above and beyond the law and that it's just that certain things need to happen regardless of legality?
Yeah, some things do have to happen regardless of legality, but we do have to act sometimes within the law on what we're doing.
Do you think long term, in other words, I get the, I've interviewed these Westboro people. I understand the satisfaction that you might get from taking down their website or hacking Shirley Phelps Roper's Twitter or whatever. But do you worry about the long-term prospects of this? I mean, in other words, over the long term, is this something that's going to be effective?
We believe that what we're achieving right now will be in the long term effective against Westboro Baptist.
Do you have any plans to get involved with either their bank accounts or their sources of funding? I mean, the big thing is they have the resources to get around to all these different protests. Do you have any plans to go beyond just hacking a Twitter account and really hit them in a way that might affect their ability to even operate?
As far as we know, us personally, my team aren't messing with their financial statements released. But Benjamin Phelps did have his credit card number released, and as far as we know, he had some credit cards maxed out from that releasing. That was done by a third party member. It wasn't us.
Interesting. So, hey, you mentioned earlier about the feds infiltrating your chat rooms and such. How do you know that you guys aren't being set up right now?
I guess because we trust you.
No, not by me, not by me. Let me rephrase it.
Oh.
In other words, you say you're let's take a step back. What I mean is, you say that you're careful when new people come into your chat rooms and stuff like that. How are you confident that some of the people in your team now may not be feds that have successfully infiltrated?
Oh, because these are people that I've personally known for years online.
You've known them online, but you don't know who they are, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So really, they could be anybody. You might have known someone online for several years. It could be a Fed, I guess.
That's true, but overall, I trust them.
You trust them?
I trust them.
Okay. So interesting. I think we've learned a lot here. Anonymous, at the same time as being very careful, very trustworthy of people that they've never met. A lot of plans when it comes to the Westboro Baptist Church. Okay, last thing, because we are short on time. What's the next thing we can expect with regards to the Westboro Baptist Church?
The very next thing on our plan, like I said, is to permanently take down GodHatesFags.com and to form a human wall, a silent human wall, around the mourners to keep Westboro Baptist Church out of the Newtown funerals.
Now, if Anonymous does show up there and forms a wall around the people at the funerals, aren't you going to reveal who you are?
Me? No. We've been getting reports that today a lot of Anonymous members have been showing up in Newtown and been marching. As far as we know, they've already started. Westboro Baptist Church has started showing up.
Right.
They haven't started the picnic, but they've started showing up, and Anonymous has started forming human walls.
Right, but what I'm saying is, if all of the Anonymous people are anonymous, how do you know that it's Anonymous that are forming human walls? Aren't they no longer anonymous?
It's the masks they wear, the identities they hide.
Oh, I see. So people wearing the masks are there.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Huh. Well, I hope nobody takes one of their masks off, because then they wouldn't be so anonymous. But listen, I agree with you that the Westboro Baptist Church is a despicable organization. As I've said, I worry whether going beyond the letter of the law is a good or bad strategy long term. Reasonable people can certainly disagree on that. You know, we know that arrests have been made in the past, And I appreciate you being here with us today. I think it's been interesting for the audience, and we're going to keep an eye on what else happens. So thanks for being here.
All right, no problem.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll be back with plenty more after this.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Astronomers have discovered what may be 5 planets orbiting Tau Ceti, the closest single star beyond our solar system, whose temperature and luminosity are somewhat close to that of our sun's. If the planets are there, one of them is about the right distance from the star to sport mild temperatures, oceans of liquid water, even life potentially. I would encourage people not to get too ahead of themselves. It's going to take a while to figure this out. Now, some people are saying if it's going to take 10 years to really look at this, shouldn't the team over at the University of Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom, including astronomer Miko Tuomi, shouldn't they have waited until they have confirmation? They say no. We want to get this out right away so that other people can actually help in working on that confirmation. I think that's respectable. That makes sense.
Yes, it's interesting, but it would be more interesting if we could reach the planet.
Yes, it would. Tau Ceti is 12 light years from Earth. Now, it's considered not very far in interstellar terms, so to speak.
Very close, actually.
It's 3 times as far as our sun's nearest stellar neighbor, Alpha Centauri. Now, it resembles the sun so much, Tau Ceti does, that Frank Drake, who has long sought radio signals from possible extraterrestrial civilizations, actually made this star his first target back in 1960. And this is pretty interesting. There are 5 planets here, and they are all closer to their star than Mars is to our sun. However, their star, Tau Ceti, only emits 45% as much light as the sun. So each planet receives less warmth than a planet would at the same distance from our sun. The innermost 3 planets, designated B, C, and D, are probably too hot to support life. They're so close that the 1 year is only 14, 35, and 94 days, respectively. The furthest of the 3, planet D, is about as close to Tau Ceti as Mercury is to the sun. Now, it's the 4th planet, which is called Planet E, which scientists say could be a life-bearing world. It's about 4 times as massive as Earth. If you live there, you would see a yellow sun in the sky, but your year would only be 168 days long, because Tau Ceti is closer to, that's because it's closer to its star than Venus is to the sun. What do you think about all this?
It's fascinating, but like I said, we're not even close to the technology to be able to reach this planet in a person's lifetime, or the technology to, I don't know, be in hypersleep or whatever you want to call it.
I think 12 light years would take us like 255,000 years to reach, or something like that.
With our current...
with current technology, yeah. If the planets do exist, they orbit a star that appears to be twice as old as our sun. So it is possible that a planet may have had long enough to develop life that is way more advanced than our species.
Right. And if that sun has been around twice as long as ours, is it close to its death?
Well, it's closer, but I think still neither one of them is on the brink of extinction. We may be too primitive for this species that might exist there to contact us. It's like, imagine if we found a planet with ants. We'd be like, look, this is so primitive, we're not going to contact them. Maybe that's why we haven't heard from them, because we're so primitive.
Or there's just no intelligent life on the planet.
Well, that's another possibility.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of Homo sapiens, we now have seen a facial anthropologist's reconstruction of Homo floresiensis. And this is done by Dr. Susan Hayes. This is based on the primitive hominin that was found in 2003 on the Indonesian island of Flores, and it's been nicknamed the Hobbit. Now, in the new study, Dr. Hayes uses so-called facial approximation techniques to show how this individual might once have looked. A lot of times she says it's called facial reconstruction in the media, but I'm using evidence-based work, and I work in archaeology, so we call this facial approximation. Interesting stuff, right?
Yeah. definitely looks like a primitive human.
The doctor says, I'm pleased with the development and the final results. She's not what you'd call pretty, but she is definitely distinctive. Some people saying that the face looks way more modern than expected, given the age and placement of this. I find this fascinating.
Pretty interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Reconstruction.
Approximation.
Approximation, yeah.
When you see this, do you start thinking like, oh, I wonder if this is what everybody looked like back then, or is this just one example? Because we have so limited actual access, right? Imagine, like, for example, if people found just 5, I don't know, skeletons from people today and did reconstruction, maybe those 5 are just outliers, right? I mean, we have no idea. We have such limited data.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to assume, at least at one point, all of the different species around the planet looked similar to this, right?
Right.
But at this time, perhaps there was one that was, a bit more advanced, looked more like us.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we will get more of these. Quick story, a Southwest Virginia legislator is proposing that Virginia get rid of its winner-take-all method of allocating presidential electoral votes and instead divide them up by congressional district. This was proposed by State Senator Bill Carrico, and if it had been in effect for the 2012 election, Mitt Romney would have won 9 of the 13 electoral votes and President Obama only 4. Of course, because it is winner-take-all, President Obama won all of those electoral votes. It's a Republican who introduced the bill. So 2 other states, Maine and Nebraska, allocate electoral votes by congressional district. In every other state, it's winner-take-all. Now, we have to say, this is a gerrymandering of sorts proposed by a Republican. Even in a case where a Democrat won under the current system, they would have lost. Democrats would have lost 9 electoral votes. It would have been an 18 electoral vote swing, so to speak, if this had been in place. Isn't this just another form of gerrymandering?
It is, because I believe that Obama did win the popular vote in Virginia.
Right.
So, yeah, this is basically the same thing. This is a tactic that would have let Romney win, the majority of basically the majority of the votes in Virginia. So, I mean, this is a terrible idea. We need to just go by the popular vote altogether.
All right, you've heard it from Lewis. Let's go to your voicemail. Our voicemail line, open 24 hours a day, is 219-2-DAVID-P. Here is one voicemail. Let's take a listen to this, Lewis.
Hey, David, Natan, Lewis. I just had to call and tell you guys how much I love you, how much I love listening to you guys, how much I love the dynamic among all of you. It's just really incredible. It's a great take and really fresh to see that there's people thinking critically about what's going on. And I don't know, it's just like the highlight of my day, seeing you guys on YouTube when I get the chance or anything. And really keep doing what you're doing. You're the best.
All right. Wow, Lewis. High praise. High praise there for sure.
Yes, I accept this praise.
A good change from the usual negative comments, and one more voicemail here. Let's take a listen.
Watching your show, and I do have a thought. You have some good ideas, but in order to be a dynamic television personality, you might need to get a haircut. Later.
Okay. Yeah, the hair has been a problem. The problem is it's just difficult to keep my hair under control. It's like, am I really going to get a haircut?
Yeah, because you refuse to cut it.
I just got a haircut recently. It's like I can't get weekly haircuts.
You can't take a centimeter off your hair, claim you got a haircut, and then complain about how it's out of control.
Yeah.
You have to take like several inches off your hair, David.
There aren't several inches there. That's the thing.
You could take at least 2 inches off.
It's getting very top heavy, as you can see. I don't know.
Well, we don't want you to have any neck problems.
No, that would be bad. Yeah. I'm going to get a haircut soon. I think soon. Maybe I will get one as we go into the winter break. Although then maybe it'll be longer by the time we get back. I don't know. I need to come up with some kind of timing.
It's a situation we're aware of. We're trying to keep it under control, but there's just not much we can do about it unless Dave agrees to get it chopped.
Or wear a hat during the show. That doesn't seem very professional, though.
It will interfere with your lighting.
We are closing in on the end of 2012, and in order to entice you to become a David Pakman Show member, join us and support us through 2013, which we hope will be the biggest year ever for the David Pakman Show. We've set up a David Pakman Show membership and hoodie special. You go to davidpakman.com/holidays. This is the last membership special of the year. You get the 1-year membership with all of the benefits, including the bonus show, the commercial-free video and audio podcast, the archive of shows dating back to August of 2005, plus a David Pakman Show hoodie sweatshirt of your choice together for a great discount. davidpakman.com/holidays. Have your voice be heard as a supporter.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.